Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, I'm going to be showing an overview of almost every single 3x3 method I know. So what are you waiting for? Let's get into it. Let's start with the beginner's method, the method you probably learned first, even though I learned the second method I'm going to overview first. Well, second. In the beginner's method, the first step is to get all of the white edges onto the yellow center. This is known as the yellow daisy, and this is pretty intuitive. Then you're gonna align each edge and do R2 to solve it. The next step is to insert all of these corners in. You can do that by doing an algorithm a few times. Open RD and then 3 times for that case. The next step is inserting these edges into their slots. So we can do that pretty easily with a few algorithms, 2 to be exact. And then, once you've done the first 2 layers, the next step is with one algorithm, solve the yellow cross or the upper edges. After this, you're going to do an algorithm called the soon to solve all of the edges into their right spots. You're going to do that a few times depending on the circumstance. Next, you're going to do an algorithm to solve all of the corners. For example, this corner is in the right place. I can keep it on the left and do the algorithm. Didn't work? Let's try it again. Now it did work. Now I'm going to turn the cube upside down and do the righty move a few times and then using the do layer a few times to get the cube solved. The layer by layer method has a very similar approach, except instead of making the yellow daisy, you straight away make the cross. Then use a slightly different algorithm to insert the corners. And from there, it's just the exact same. In fact, I'll use my method because that will make this video very long. Now, once you've done the first 2 layers, it gets a little different. You're going to learn a few algorithms to solve the yellow cross, okay? But next, you're going to use the soon algorithm for something else. You're going to use it for solving the yellow corners. So you're going to do that a few times. And then after that, you're going to do an algorithm to solve all of the corners. And I got pretty lucky there by getting a skip of the final step, which is to use a few algorithms to solve the rest of the cube. 4 algorithms to be exact. The one I currently use is the CFOP method, and it is basically a more advanced layer by layer. So you start off by making the cross in a bit more intuitive and more advanced way, but instead of inserting these corners in first, you're going to pair the corner and edge and then insert it at the same time, making it more efficient. You can do that and that. Then, instead of doing multiple steps to solve the yellow side, you do it in just one algorithm, which needs 57 algorithms. And then after that, you just solve the rest in one algorithm, which needs 21 algorithms. Might sound like a lot of algorithms. Trust me, some of the methods coming up later have a whole lot of algorithms. Next up is something called the Roux method, which is a weird intuitive method. So basically, the first step in the Roux method is to make a 2x2x1 block intuitively. Except I kind of have to use CFOP to do that because I am not very good at block building. Next step is to make one of those 1x2x3 blocks on the other side. So for example, okay, I'll try to use block building. I don't know. But yeah, it's pretty intuitive. People are really pretty fast with this method. Next, you use a few algorithms, or in some cases one algorithm, to solve the yellow corners. And that didn't work out. The next step is doing something called EO, which is orienting all of the edges. So you see these 6 edges. they all have to be facing either white or yellow, unless you're color neutral. So you can do an algorithm or maybe repeat an algorithm a few times. Then you're gonna try to get the left and right edges. Basically, you're gonna find one, bring it to the back, bring the other one here, do an short algorithm, and insert that in. And I got a little lucky there, but usually after that, you're gonna have some case where you need to solve the cube with F moves, U moves, M moves. Sometimes R, and sometimes E moves. In the ZZ method, you're gonna do something that looks a bit like magic. Voila! Every piece on this cube is oriented. Means you barely even have to rotate to solve the cube anymore, and you will get a cross on top. So the next step is to quickly just solve the front and back two edges. Then you can use block building, which is like a more efficient way of doing these. Or you could use simple CFOP. You can just solve everything. Make sure you don't do an algorithm called sledgehammer though. It's a short algorithm, however, it really messes up everything. Oh, I did that wrong. And then, once you solve it, you have a cross on top, meaning you can do ZBLL or ZBLL, whatever you want to call it. I got a quarter twist for some reason. Or you could do simple CFOP. And ZBLL is solving the rest in one algorithm. 495 algorithms, I think, or you could just use normal CFOP, which is what I prefer when doing the ZZ method. The Petrus method is a bit similar to Roux. This used to be a big and popular method, but let's not talk about it anymore. The first step is to make a 2x2x2 block. Then expand that by adding a few pieces to make a 2x2x3 block, and let's forget about that. Then the next step is to do something called magic. So basically, you're gonna orient every piece on the cube. So for example, these two aren't oriented. Okay, I can do a short algorithm to orient them. Then you solve basically everything else almost. And for some reason, I didn't get a cross on top, means I failed the O. But then from there, you can just use normal CFOP. The next method is the belt method. What this is basically, what you're trying to do is the first step is to make a belt around the middle. This is very intuitive, and it's literally way more efficient than that. The next step is to get every piece to their normal spot. For example, these two pieces are not in the correct spot, and same thing with these two. So I can switch these two by using U2, M2, and switch these two. Well, I wasn't expecting that to happen. And then do the same thing with corners by using a different algorithm. Okay, let's see. So we need to switch these two. We could do... What algorithm could we do? Maybe the T-perm. And then maybe you might have to do it again. Do the same algorithm. And then you have every piece. But sometimes and then you guys can do OLL and PLL on both faces. But sometimes you might run into unsolvable cases like this, which you can just simply solve an algorithm. Then sometimes you might get a corner twist, and this is pretty rare, I think. But what you can do is, once again, a short algorithm, which sometimes might mess up your belt, and then you can get another case of parity. So you're just gonna try, and then do a short algorithm, M2, U2, M2, and then from there, just solve it. And the belt method, trust me, is not very good. Some of these methods, I don't even know why they existed. And the final method, known as the lightning of the Rubik's Cube. The ZB method. So basically, it starts off the same as CFOP, where you build the cross and efficiently make pairs like this. until you get to your last pair. You're going to do a ZBLS algorithm to solve all of the corners also. And there are 302 algorithms to this, but most of them are intuitive. And then you solve the rest in one algorithm. ZBLL, as I mentioned before, 495 algorithms. I don't know this case, so I'm going to convert it. Do you know that I can convert it into a ZBL that I know in one snap? There we go, a ZBLL that I know. So that's it for today's video. I hope you liked it. Make sure to subscribe, as 79.4% of you guys watching my videos aren't subscribed. Leave a like and stop making my cubes disappear. Well, I told you they were gonna disappear. Why do they always disappear? Has it gotten smaller? I don't think so, has it? Let's check. Doesn't look like. Whatever. Bye.